Okay, I want to go through one of the contingency tables just to help you see how to read these, particularly when they begin asking about percentages or probabilities. So here's a contingency table. Students in a stats class were asked to describe their politics as liberal, moderate, or conservative, and the results are shown in the table below. And so we've separated these out by male and female. You won't always have total rows and columns, so if you don't, you may need to add those on there. So what percent of the class is female? So the hardest part on this set of questions is trying to figure out the numerator and denominator. Okay, so what percent of the class? So that means my denominator is going to be this 192. And so what percent of the class is female? So we look at the total number of females, we have 77. So in the calculator, you can put 77 divided by 192. And if you need to, you can say times 100. Normally I'll just kind of shift that decimal point over 2 places in my head, and we get about 40.1%. So on your paper, you would want to put kind of what you did. So you kind of show your work to some degree, put what two numbers you divided, and the percent at the end. And then it's nice if you can highlight in some way. How about this next one, B? What percent of the class considers themselves to be liberal? So of the class, again, here's my total. And now we're looking at, we want to count the number of liberals. So, or people that consider themselves to be liberal. And we have a total of 85 over 192. So we can say 85 divided by 192. And so we're going to get about 44.3%. So again, on your paper, tell me what you did to get that. 85 divided by 192 equals, and we'll just go ahead and go straight to the percent, 44.3%. What percent of the females in the class consider themselves to be moderate? So now we're only looking at the females, right? So that's the question in your head. What is the total? Well, so what percent of the females? So I'm only focused on this female row right here. So we have a total of 77 females. Well, what percent of them? So I need to count how many of them consider themselves to be moderate. Well, 36 consider themselves to be moderate. And so we're going to say 36 divided by 77. And we get about 46.8%. What percent of all students in the class are male who consider themselves to be liberal? So what percent of all students, so again, there's my denominator, if all students in the class are male who consider themselves to be liberal. So now I'm going to focus in on what's my numerator. So they're males who consider themselves to be liberal, right here. So there are 50 of them. So there are 50 over 192. So about 26.0%. Okay, find the conditional distributions, the percentages of political views of females and males. Just another way to sort of ask these. Percent of females who are conservative. So again, percent of females, so that means we're only looking at what? We're only going to be looking at the females. So what percent of the females are conservative? So we have 6 out of 77. And we can put 6 divided by 77. And so we get about 7.8%. Okay, pause the video now, see if you can do this one. Welcome back. What about percent of males who are conservative? So now we're focusing in on the males. Only the male row. What percent of the males are conservative? So we have 21 out of 115. So about 18.3%. So these sorts of tables come up all the time in real life situations. They're not always quite as, they're not always worded the same way. So focus in on what is the numerator, what is the denominator, and then divide those two, shift this point over 2 places, or multiply by 100. So I hope that helps give you a little understanding of this. We had a couple of those in the project, which seemed to cause a little bit of confusion with many students. So did not intend for that at all. I must have had a gap in my own instruction for there. So I've created a video here to maybe help clear some of that up, because you will see something like this show up on the midterm and possibly even a future assessment. Hope that helps.